and welcome to this episode of Spotlight with Sandhya. Our guest today is the bold and beautiful Prathibha Prahlad. She is a classical dancer, choreographer and cultural visionary. She has been awarded the Padma Shri by the Indian government and she is also the recipient of an award by the Sangeet Natak Akademi. Welcome to the show, Prathibha.
Thank you.
I see you, or rather, we all see you as the strong, fierce, and self-assured person. Can you tell us how you broke through the fort of patriarchy to become this force to reckon with in the arts and culture landscape in India?
Well, I think, perceptions are different and perceptions are not actually reality. And like I often say that those who appear most courageous, fierce is the word you used, or bold, are actually those who have gone through a lot in life and who are the most sensitive and who have also been subjected to a lot of, ferocity, of gossip and, aspersions. So to overcome that and to feel that you are who you are, despite what people say about you, you are who you are in spite of what people do to you or do not do to you, takes a long time, I presume. And I think it's important for us to connect with our inner selves and to understand who we are and what our journey and our destiny is. And yes, I've gone through a lot, and like I said, I was born into a regular middle-class Brahmin family, so there were expectations of the girl child that they had, and so did others around the family, the larger family and the society in large. And yes, I have done what I have done, but I've done that with conviction, and I did not shy away from doing it publicly. I've gone through ways and means and roads that others perhaps find it difficult or fearful to go through. But there have been thorns in the pathway, and it's not a bed of roses that one walks on. But despite all that, at the end of the tunnel is light. And I think most all women, and I say this with conviction again, should claim agency over their body, their mind and their spirit.
I think certainly this is what women who look up to you would want to take away from this session. It's not easy, whichever field you're in, whether you're in the field of arts or you're in medicine or you're in teaching, as a woman, you cannot get away from the oppression of patriarchy, and that is something that we talk about quite often. Prathibha, you're also an author and you write articles for leading publications. And I remember in one of the articles that you wrote for the Best of India book that my company published, you talked about how Indian classical dance is reclaiming the sensuality that used to be part of it originally, and there have been a phase where dance would have almost died out in the form that it was in at that point of time, and it was in a way brutally amputated, and all the sensual elements were taken away, and it was reduced to perhaps a rather more anemic version of what it was. Do you think that with the reintroduction or the reclaiming of sensuality, the dancers today are able to empathize more with what contemporary Indian women want?
Well, I'm going to start by answering the first part of your question. The first part of your question was, when did we sanitize dance? And when did we take away sensuality from our dances? So, for the longest ever time, dance was associated with the Devadasis, who were the performers and who did not really enjoy social status post-British Empire, post the Britishers. Before that, they were agents of God. But, after the British rule came into India, there was a lot of mismatch and lack of understanding of the position of the Devadasi. And therefore, there were a lot of societal problems that crept in, and patriarchy and feudalism being topmost among them. So in the light of that, when independent India had to reclaim the art form, early pioneers like Rukmini Devi Arundale and E. Krishna Iyer thought that it was best to devoid the dance of all its erotic poetry and eroticism and to claim it as Bhakti Shringara. Now Shringara is the primal rasa in the classical dance sampradaya or tradition. Without Shringara, there's no other rasa, because within the gambit or the ambit of Shringara, you can, emote and take your audience to different levels of emotions. So when they did away with Shringara and said that everything was Bhakti Shringara, towards, on the path to God, towards enlightenment, they were trying to draw back the middle class and the, upper middle class, very highly prudish audiences into theatres, and they want, and like E. Krishna Iyer famously said, you can't throw the baby with the bath water. So the bath water had to be discarded, which was erotic poetry, erotic literature, but you had to claim the baby and see that the tradition of dance goes forward. So Kalakshetra tradition, if you see, Bishop Rukmini Arundale started, did not give emphasis to erotic poetry. But there were some dancers who had learned from Bala Saraswati, from Mylapur Gauri Ammal, and the last living Devadasi legends of dance, and they brought back this poetry into the traditional repertoire. One of these gurus was my own guru, Srimati Kalanidhi Narayanan, who started teaching young dancers, at that time young dancers, from upper middle class families, poetry that was deeply steeped in erotic love and longing and desire, and the brutality and the starkness of that desire and of wanting and longing and pining for God or God, man, whoever it be. And why it's been now 50 years that these poetry, this kind of poetry has been in public domain for the arts, and the most famous being Kshetraya, Jayadeva, Sarangapani, and those poets who were not inhibited when they wrote about the love of a woman for a man, or a love of a man for a woman, the longing of sexual union. So Bala Saraswati famously said that you cannot attain moksha by discarding sensuality and sexuality. It's only with claiming sensuality and sexuality can you attain moksha, because when you're completely in love, mind, body and spirit, you are already on a different level, on a heightened plane, because your relationship with your lover is not transactional. You're not there because he's famous or he's rich or he's got money or he's powerful. You are with him because you love him and he loves you. And that is something that is so essential to the arts. And for the arts to be authentic, they have to, reclaim that those sentiments and those emotions that are pure. And erotic love or Shringara is pure and authentic and honest.
Okay, so these feelings of love, longing, desire, devotion, piety, they are eternal. But what about what the contemporary woman wants? Do you think classical dance and classical art forms can address that? Can they also resonate and match the expectations of the women?
I'm happy you asked me this, because a long time ago I'd written an article calling myself the feminist Naika. Because some of the critics in the field had said, why do you show a woman always longing and pining for a man? Why can't a woman like you, be strong and brave and courageous and not want a man? So at which point I said that I don't want to desexualize myself, or I don't want to degender myself. I'm a woman. I have a body. I have needs. I have desires, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of my desire or my need or my longing or my pining. So I said, but I don't understand why I should do away with the natural instincts of feminine gender, with my natural instincts, and say that a woman, in order to be a feminist, should not pine for her lover. I said, who would you rather have me pine for? For another woman. I mean, then that would be a different relationship altogether that we, in today's world call it LGBTQ. But I said, in classical poetry, you have a woman pining for a man, and it's not an unnatural feeling. Like you said, it's an eternal feeling. How does that disempower you? How does that subjugate you? Or how does that make you lesser of a woman than you are? In fact, it heightens your sensuality, your sexuality, your power over your own body, mind, feelings, and it also, the power that you have over your lover, your man, I mean, whoever he is, because you are a woman and he is a man, and that is, those relationships are, forever. They've been there forever, and they're going to remain forever.
So I guess in current times it could be the love that a woman has for another woman.
Cool.
But that apart, my question was also a little deeper than that. I'm not questioning the longing or the wanting. That, like you said, is a part of human nature. As long as we remain sensual creatures, we will want it. But I'm saying, like how contemporary dance would reflect probably the problems of today. Do you think classical dance could also be used to depict those kind of issues, like today's problems? Can we use it to show perhaps like how you show, please do that beautiful gesture that you show to show the sun or the bird? Can we use it to show something about global warming? Can we make it more contemporary? Can we address contemporary issues?
Dance is dynamic.
Okay.
And artists are also living human beings.
Right.
They are not museumized pieces. They live in a certain society, and there are issues in that society in which they live in, and those things are addressed. But these, poetic instinct, as they say, the poetic instinct, the artistic intuition, has to come from within the artist, whether it be a dancer or a musician or a painter or a poet. It can't be perforced implanted by an outside force, saying, oh, you're contemporary, you got to do a contemporary theme, you do global warming. So then somebody comes, does the same taya, in the same costume, and saying, oh, the sun is bright and the moon is, cooling. It's ridiculous. Thought has to be given. If the artist has depth, the artist gives thought, ideates the problem, what the artist wants to say through her dance or whatever. So it is as contemporary as the dancer is. It is as contemporary as the dancer wants it to be. So I don't think that issues like global warming or anything else cannot be introduced into the dance idiom. They can be, of course they can be, and many other issues that we all the time talk about and revisit our own epics. We revisit our own Puranas.
For example, domestic abuse.
Yes.
I'm sure it happened it's as old as humankind. I'm sure as old as Adam and Eve.
So we do revisit that. We relook at all the Puranic figures. We relook at all the people that we've read about, and decide on how we want to project them. That is also contemporary, not just talking about Swan. But Sandhya, I would like to point this out, that if anyone thinks that every other month they have to keep churning contemporary or some pertinent kind of a issue, kind of a performance, it doesn't hold water, because classical dance is not a newspaper that you read today and throw away. It is something that remains forever. It's a parampara. It's it's a sampradaya. It goes on forever. So one has to be careful about having the right mix and how much you want to say, in what idiom you want to say, through what medium you want to say.
So Pratibha, I want to talk now about this magnificent cultural extravaganza that you created, the Delhi International Arts Festival. You inspired a legion of arts festivals in India, varying sizes. Amongst them is our own little Under The Raintree Women's Cultural Festival. So, if you had the power, to influence at the policy level or the implementation level, how would you help the genuine festival organizers and founders in this country? Because I do believe we all play a very important role. So how would you, and it's a thankless job. I mean, you've seen it, you've done it. What powers you to keep doing it at that level is something, incredible, and one can only marvel at the relentless drive and energy. But if you could, what would you do to help the field of arts festivals in India?
See, the thing is that one has to recognize the role of civil society in keeping, the society and the culture of the society moving, pushing in different directions. Government should not organize festivals because it's not the government's duty to curate or organize cultural festivals. Because people in government, they're income dependent. One time you have a secretary or a joint secretary or a director who is extremely, fond of cultural activities, artistic activities, and that person invests in funding those activities. But there are many instances of people who are not interested, they're disinterested. So what do you do then? You've got to keep appealing to them to give us the money. What does civil society lack that government has? Civil society lacks the funding and the money power. So if ever, I get the power to be able to transact this or renegotiate the spaces of, giving funding and grants to organizations that are doing extraordinary work, I think I would increase the grants, the amount of the grants. I would recognize top quality organizations. I would map them. I would call it cultural mapping. Who are the people who organize? How do they organize? What is their commitment level? And categorize them into A, B, C categories so that one understands who organizes at what level and what the funding should be available for them annually, so that they don't have to go begging for funds every year or reapply for funds every year. Yes, they will have to comply with government, mandates like utilization or a PFMS, and that is normal and that's fine. But yes, I would ensure that every year at a particular time before their festival, not after their festival, the funds are available for them from whatever the ministry
ahead, so they can plan the
schedule and do it like it's done
professionally,
like it is done internationally.
I think this has been a very engaging and very informative session, Pratibha. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much. So I'm always happy to talk to you. Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Spotlight with Sandhya. Do like, subscribe and share the Raintree Media channel on YouTube. This interview is also available as a podcast on many platforms. Until I'm back again with another interesting guest, take care and bye-bye.